Started. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Sumo Logic European Cert Camp. I'm not sure who's.
Can you mute yourself?
Yeah, I'll say mute it, or I'll mute you. Thank you. There we go. There we go. And again, a couple folks have just joined us. So anyway, my name is John Meredith, and actually let me turn my camera on so you can put a face to a name. So I am your instructor, and I am based here in the United States. Specifically, I am based out of my home in Bedford, New Hampshire, in the United States, so on the East Coast. And as you can tell probably from my windows behind me here, it's still dark. The sun has not come up yet, and but just wanted to welcome you. Been with Sumo about 2.5 years. Again, I'm a trainer. This is the sort of thing I do each and every day. So glad to meet you all, and look forward to working with you. Got some folks helping me here. So Ulf, you want to say hi?
Yep. Hi, everyone. Ulf Andreasson. I'm working with solution engineers in EMEA, so I may have spoken to some of you from time to time, or, one of my team or something like that. And, I've been with Sumo for about 4 years, and I'm based in Sweden, in Gothenburg, kind of on the West Coast and not Stockholm, which is based in the East Coast. But yeah, that's about me. Yeah.
Very good. And Peter, you're also here, correct? Peter, want to say hi?
Yes. Hello. My name is Peter Walker. I'm customer success engineer. Soon it will be my 5th anniversary with Sumo Logic. Again, here to help out with any questions you might have.
All right, great. And again, Ulf and Peter will be there answering your questions. So if you type a question or something in the chat box, they'll be there to take care of it. And again, Peter and Ulf are your local solution engineers. So if you've got questions, issues, things like that we can help you with, every one of us here at Sumo Logic wants to help you, pure and simple. So feel free to ask your questions. Feel free to take out of this class what you will. And we look forward to working with you. Again, here on the slide has all of our email addresses. So if you've got questions, you may want to jot like Ulf's and Peter's down. You're welcome to jot mine down as well. I think Brian will be joining us tomorrow. I know he's not here just yet. So let me also make sure here, let me pass here, make sure everybody's microphones are enabled. A couple of folks have joined us here at the last minute. So let me just click on those. Enable your microphone so you can say hi or whatever. Ask your question directly. Again, you can type your question in the chat box, or you can ask it directly. It's entirely up to you. Couple of things here. We have found at Sumo Logic, and by the way, here's the folks will be helping us tomorrow, and I'll let them introduce themselves tomorrow. So, we found that taking your certification will, in fact, double your ability to do complex operators and search operations. So we've done this through research. We have found this to be absolute truth. And so that's why we encourage you to take the class, not only take the class, but also at the end of the class, take the certification exam. So it will help you, and it will be, just enable you for future success. Now, today, actually, who we have with us today, again, the European community is well represented with 16 different companies, 22 different cities, and most of you are focused on DevOps. So, and I know we've got some folks down here from, like I said, Africa and Nigeria and things like that. So I think we probably need to see about expanding this map a little bit. But anyway, glad to have everybody with us today. Our game plan for today we're going to go over our fundamentals class. It's kind of a broad overview of Sumo Logic. And you'll find that this class does, in fact, come with a break. So we'll probably go for about an hour, and then we'll take a break. And then we'll continue for another hour, finish and wrap up the labs and lecture, and then we'll take the certification exam. So that's the game plan for those of you in UK time. We'll start at 9 o'clock, which should have been about 10 minutes ago. And we will finish up around noon. So I will warn you, the lecture part of this particular course tends to run a little long. So I will make sure that you definitely get an hour for the labs. For the certification. Is there a question? All right. Somebody's having fun with the jams. So that's today. And then tomorrow, we're going to cover the course known as Search Mastery. That focuses on writing log queries. So we're going to talk about the language, the syntax, and things like that we use to write log queries. So that's going to be today, and that's going to be tomorrow. And again, we want to welcome you back to the training, same hours, and we look forward to working with you. One thing we are doing here is we are running a special promotion. So if you do take the certification exam and pass it, right after the class, you can fill out this form, and I will provide the link in the chat box. But you can fill out that form and you can receive an Uber Eats voucher. So we provide a $15 Uber Eats voucher that you can take. Keep in mind that from the time you submit the form, please give us a business week to process and get that Uber Eats voucher out to you. So who says you can't have a free lunch? There you go. One thing, for those of you with us in the past, we used to also offer something with Ziggy out in India. We don't do that anymore. We're having problems working with Ziggy, some real issues there. So we have discontinued the Ziggy promotion, just to be clear. So another thing to consider here is next week, we're offering some additional classes. They're really on US East Coast time, but they're still within your normal workday for the most part. So on 6/21, we're going to have a cloud security analytics and monitoring class. And then on 6/22, we're going to do our cloud SIM fundamentals class, SIM standing for security information and event management. And then on 6/23, again, our cloud SIM administration class. Myself I think it'll probably be me teach most of those classes. And then the following week, or I'm sorry, excuse me, the following month in July, we'll also be doing an administration class. So just wanted to invite you for those classes. Again, you can go to our site, our website, and you can find these classes and you can sign up for them. I know at least one of you had an issue where you registered for classes and didn't receive the registration link. I am sorry about that. I don't know why, but hopefully you all get the registration link and you're all able to see the things that you need to do. Just for fun, if I go out to our customer site, I'm going to show you where you can find out about information about these classes. So if I go out to our public facing site, www.sumologic.com, and then over here in the menu, if I go under resources, and under resources, there's a section here for learn. And if I click on learn, here is where I can see the upcoming classes. So I can see when we're offering various classes. This is showing me my June schedule. And one little thing, it's not intuitively obvious, and I apologize for it, but there is a switch here that you can click on to see other classes coming up. So there is where you can find information about our classes, and I will put that in the chat box. You'll find I'll be putting a lot of URLs in the chat box today, so hopefully they will help you out. So any questions about that, or any questions before we get started with the class? All right, then. Let me go ahead and put this slide deck away for right now, and let's talk about Sumo Fundamentals Certification. So in the next 3 hours, we are going to provide you a demonstration of Sumo Logic and give you a practical use case in Sumo Logic. Then we will jump into our hands-on labs. You'll find that all of our classes, for the most part, are practical and very hands-on. So we're going to give you the ability to log into our training environment and see firsthand what's going on with our system, and run queries and install applications and do all kinds of neat stuff. And so that's how we're going to spend the next hour and 45 minutes, probably closer to 2 hours, just to be honest with you. And then we'll take an hour to take the certification exam. Quite frankly, that certification exam will not take you, I think, a full hour. I think it'll probably take about 30, 35 minutes. And if I did my job right, you should be prepared and you should be able to pass the exam. So without too much hassle. I will say that our exams are open note, open book, open slides, and all that stuff. And later on, I'll show you where those slides and resources can be found. So again, we talked about the Uber Eats voucher, and I said I'll copy and paste that form into the chat box when we get around to taking that exam. All right, so what does Sumo Logic do for me? Well, let's give you for instance here. Let's say that I work for a company called Travel Logic. And with Travel Logic, we can book travel. We can book airfare. We can book hotels. We can book cars. We can book all kinds of neat things. And we can travel around. And let's face it, COVID's getting a little old and I'm getting a little tired of it. I'm ready to go take vacation. I'm sure you are too. Well, with Travel Logic, it runs on AWS and we can book travel and all that fun stuff. Now, as you can imagine with a virtual company like Travel Logic, if people can't book their travel, I lose revenue, I'm losing money, I've got problems, okay? So one of the things that we can do in Sumo Logic is we can set up alerts and have it go to Microsoft Teams or Slack or whatever. And so if we have a problem, we can have it notify us via these alerts that we've got a problem. And if you look very closely here, you'll see that we've set up for the purposes of training this alert. So I'm getting an alert that says I have a problem, gateway response, time outlier, and prod 09 gives me a timestamp. And then I've got some links that I can click on, which will take me to the respective dashboards. Now, so you can do this through Teams or Slack or whatever. And so I can, you can, we can go in here to Sumo Logic, specifically into our demo environment. And I'll talk about how to log into Sumo and all stuff later. For right now, I just want you to watch. But over here is my shared library. So when I log into Sumo, I can see my shared library, my personal library, stuff like that. And in my shared library, you'll notice I have a folder here called Production Travel Logic that I can open up. And I mentioned our problem, our issue is with prod 09. So let's go ahead and click on the prod 09 folder. And then here we're broken down by different aspects of our business, right? So in Sumo Logic, I can look at things from an operations perspective, systems up, down, that sort of thing. I can look at things from a security perspective, who's logging in, where they're logging in from, that sort of thing. I can look at it from a business perspective, you know, who's buying my product, where are they buying it from, what are they interested in, that sort of thing. Well, obviously, our use case right now is we're focused operational. So if I go into my operations folder here, I can go into my operational overview, and I can see right now the general state of my environment. Now, each one of these little squares that you're seeing is a query. And so these queries are providing you single values. And we've color coded them based on the value that's being displayed. And I'm sure that you realize, okay, green's good, yellow's not so good, red's really bad. So my elastic load balancer is generating a lot of 5XX errors, 501, 502, 503. My checkout service is generating a lot of errors over the last 60 minutes. And if people can't check out, that means they can't purchase. That means I'm losing money. That is not going to be a good day in my life. And then I see there's some issues with my job queue. Now, I went here and I went into this dashboard, but I could have, as I mentioned before, click on this, and that would have taken me to the same dashboard. Now in Sumo Logic, I can click on this panel, this checkout service panel, and it will then take me and show me some services detail information. I'm going to go ahead and close this navigation panel to give myself some more room. So here I have 6 panels. This is a panel, this is a panel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There are 6 of these. Each one of these panels represents a query. So this is an interesting little problem, because this problem, for a long time, I was running fine, no errors, no fuss, no muss. In fact, if I turn off failures, you'll see that there was a time when I was running fine with no failures, and all of a sudden I got failures. And then all of a sudden the failures went away. Oh man, that's a fun one to troubleshoot, isn't it? By the way, you can use these selectors to filter if you want, to select the data that you want. So I'm seeing that I've got a window here where I've got a period of failures and issues and problems and things. Now, again, I see my errors over the last 7 days. That's what this orange line is. However, if I turn off this orange line, I see that the previous 4 days or the previous 7 days, I didn't have any errors. So all of a sudden, I'm starting to get errors. And of course, my boss would love me to resolve these errors before they wake up and we take care of things. Additionally, down here, I can see that in my travel checkout service, my travel checkout node, In the last 60 minutes, that's what it's saying there, 60 minutes, I have received over 4,000 errors. That is not a good thing. Additionally, on this node, which is my worker node, I have 243 errors. Okay. So a lot of errors over here, and we need to investigate that. We're going to in just a second. Over here, I can see that I'm generating some latency. So I've got a little diagram here indicating latency. I can also see my latency average, and this is an outlier diagram. So I've got a line, again, no problems, no issues, no fusses, no problems. And then all of a sudden I start seeing problems and issues, and I can see, am I in range of what I expect? That's what this outlier diagram gives us. And we'll talk a little bit about this in this class, but we'll talk a lot more about that tomorrow. And then up here, I can see my CPU and total memory. So if I look for my dashed line, if you bear with me a second here, just trying to find the dashed line. There we go. That's my memory usage. And then because I'm on an AWS environment, I've got a bunch of different CPUs. This particular CPU is my travel admin node. This one right here is my travel admin node, and I can see the different CPUs. And again, I can select what I want to here and turn things on or turn things off. Now, what I want to do is I want to investigate this. I want to use Sumo Logic and the power of Sumo Logic to troubleshoot and investigate. Okay, you're going to find that information like this, where I display metric values, will typically tell us why things are going on. I'm sorry, what was going on. But when I investigate and look at my logs will tell me why it is happening. So I'm going to take this visualization right here, and I'm going to explore it. I'm going to expand it. I'm going to look into it. So the way I do that is I click on this little icon up here in the corner. That takes me to this underlying visualization, making it very, very easy for you and I to see what is going on. Okay. So again, I can see here's my various nodes. Here's my checkout node. You can see my checkout node is running a series of errors there for a while. Hang on a second, let me get back on that checkout node. Okay. And so I can see the number of errors and stuff here. Now, when I look down here, I am looking at a specific metric. This particular metric is my CPU total. So here I'm looking at my various CPUs. And again, I'm looking at the max value by node. That's why I've got all these different nodes. Additionally, I'm also seeing a metric, my memory usage. Again, that's this dashed line up here. And that's my memory usage. And of course, as my CPU spikes, so does my memory. So again, good indicator here of what's going on. Now, not only am I looking at metrics here, but I'm also looking at my log data. So I'm looking also at my source category where my data is coming from. Excuse me, my travel checkout logs. And I'm looking for the words error or exception. And what happens is when I'm looking at my metrics and my logs together on the same display, I get this heat map up here. So this heat map is a result of being able to look at my logs and metrics. And you're going to see that in the form of a test question on the certification exam. So please get it right. So that heat map is generated when we have a combination of logs and metrics. And the darker the color of orange means the higher the number of errors, corresponding errors. So while these spikes were happening with my metrics, I'm also seeing a lot of log messages with either the word error or exception. So that's what that heat map is telling me. I've got a little correlation here. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to investigate this even further. So on the heat map, I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and I'm going to shift click, hold down my shift key, and click on this. And that's going to take me to my logs. And that's going to show me in this 1 minute all of my log messages. So when I clicked on that particular heat map here, and for this 1 minute, it's going to show me all my log messages for that 1 minute. So here I am in my log query. And I see I've got 424 log messages in this 1 minute. Here is my query that was written, and here is my time frame. Now, this 1 minute is nice. It's helpful. It might give me an idea of what's happening. But I want to open this up a little bit. I want to open the time. So I'm going to click on the time and I can select different time ranges if I want to. So you don't mind, I'm going to select the last 60 minutes here. And I'm going to run this again. Now to run this query, all I've got to do is hit the enter key on my keyboard, or I can click on this little blue button up here and it's going to run my query. And again, I noticed that I'm getting a lot of messages during this time frame with the word error exception. Now, obviously, as I look through here, I'm going to find the error and I'm going to see what the error is, but I may not see what's causing the error. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify this query a little bit, and I'm going to get rid of the words error exception. So I don't want to see only messages that have the word error exception on them. I want to see every message. And so now when I run this by clicking the enter key on my keyboard, now I get a lot more messages. In fact, down here, I can see that this query is done, how long it took, the number of records or messages I have, which is 27,618. And then here's my session ID. Now, I don't want to read through these 27,000 messages. But what I can do and what I will do is I have the capability in Sumo Logic to do something called log reduce. And when I click on log reduce, it's going to combine my like messages together. So it's simply going to go through and find my formatted messages, find the ones that look similar, and it's going to combine them. So this is going to take about a minute while it goes ahead and processes this. But in the end, what I'm going to see here is how many different messages I have of each type. And that will make it much easier for you and I to troubleshoot this issue. So it looks like it finished up. Again, I still got my 27,965 messages. If I click on the messages tab, here are my original messages. But when I do a log reduce, it creates the signatures tab. And we'll talk more about the signatures tab in the Search Mastery class, going here in more detail. But what I can see, though, is out of my 27,000 messages, 11,000 are this message. What is this message? This message is a trace statement, right? My developers put a trace statement in here to provide me some information. This is simply an informational type message, okay? This is also an informational type message. This is, again, boot up type message. Looks like I'm getting a little bit of an error here. But it's really not the error I'm looking for. If I scroll down, I see that I've got about 893 of these messages. This says error, bad handshake, SSL routine, get server certificate, server verification failed. Again, I'm not sure what you know about, putting credit card information into a system or whatever. But normally when I have some sort of payment system through public key infrastructure, we connect to the payment system that we're going to use. So I might have a place for you to enter your credit card information. And I'm going to take that credit card information and I'm going to pass it off to the payment information system. But all that information is encrypted. It's encrypted by a certificate that we use or that is used between the two systems. It's going to encrypt your credit card data. That's why your credit card data is always protected. It's always secure and all that sort of thing. And it's an industry standard. It's not a Sumo Logic product. It's just an industry standard. And so what happens here is that it's getting a problem with my certificate. So now I've got an idea that my problem is that my digital certificate failed. Maybe my certificate expired, maybe there's a problem with my certificate, whatever. But now I've got a pretty good idea of where to direct folks to look at. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is I want to know what caused this, why it happened. I got a pretty good idea of what happened, but I want to know why. Sometimes, like I said, looking at high numbers is helpful. Sometimes if I flip this and sort this in ascending order, looking at low numbers can be helpful as well. And what I'm looking for here is I'm simply looking for a message. Bear with me a second. There it is. I'm looking for a message that when I boot it up. So when I boot it up here, I have my Travel Logic Start Cluster Prod 09 service checkout version 1.14 dev. 1.14 dev, this is a prod environment. Oh, I wonder if one of my developers promoted a dev environment to prod and didn't update the certificate. That makes perfectly good sense, right? So now I've got a pretty good idea of what happened, what caused this, and obviously what I need to do to troubleshoot it. I need to check out that certificate and replace that certificate. Now, if I'm really smart, I can learn from this. You can learn from this. And maybe what we want to do is maybe we want to build a dashboard or two that talks about when we promote and when we build and we release and all that stuff. And we can build some dashboards to kind of see how that process is going. So we can see who released this and we can find out who that user was and explain to them that when they release this, they need to make sure the certificate's updated and all that good stuff. So that's my demo. Any questions about it? All right. So we started off with an alert, right? Notifies us of a critical event. From that alert, we looked at the metrics, and the metrics typically tell us what is going on. Another test question. The difference between metrics and logs here, metrics tell us what is going on, logs tell us why it is happening. So something to take and jot down if you're taking notes so that you get that test question right. We basically go from a high level alert and to a dashboard into the metrics, into the logs, and troubleshoot the problem. Any questions? Yes, sir. So all you got a hand up? Questions, sir?
Yeah. Are we able to get a copy of this before the exam just so we can go over it, or?
You will get a copy of the slides. I'll show you where that is. I'm going to show you that in just about 5-10 minutes. And so you'll get a copy of that. I'll also show you where there's a recording of this class as well. So yes, the short answer is we'll provide that information to help you out.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Another question, please.
So another question?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. What's the question?
So, yeah. So is it expected to take the exam today, or is it a later date than today?
I'm sorry?
Are we expected to take the exam today?
You can take the exam today, or you can take it later. You can take it tomorrow. You can take it whatever. But obviously, if you want to get the Uber Eats voucher, we want you to take it today. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes.
Good. Thanks for asking. No problem. Yep. All right. So when we think in terms of Sumo Logic and our data flow, right, there are 3 phases to it. One, we've got to get data coming into Sumo Logic. For that, we're going to use something called collectors and sources. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about the different types of collectors and sources that we use, whether you're on-prem or you're in the cloud, things like that. But we've got to get data coming into Sumo Logic. Once we get data coming into Sumo Logic, we can either write log queries and or metric queries to be able to analyze and see what's going on. And we can basically write our queries in such a way that creates visualizations, charts, maps, bar charts, line charts, whatever, to see what's going on. We can then take those visualizations or that textual data, and we can build dashboards with it. And we can generate alerts. So these are the 3 phases that we go through with regards to Sumo Logic. By the way, let me turn off my camera here, because I don't think you need to worry about seeing me here. And let's go ahead and talk about these collectors. We've got 2 broad categories of collectors. And again, this looks like a very busy slide, but one of the types of collectors we have is a hosted collector. Again, test question. Hosted collectors are collectors that we at Sumo Logic maintain for you. There is nothing that you need to install. There is nothing that you need to configure. We maintain them for you. So if you're running on AWS, or you're running on Azure, you're running on Google Cloud Platform, or you're running a various software as a service like Salesforce or Office 365 or whatever, we already have the collector there and available. Okay. There's nothing as far as the collector you have to install or configure. Okay. So all these various aspects you see, if you draw a line vertically down the middle of this and you look at the right side, all of that stuff uses a host collector, right? So if you're using the single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, Okta or Duo or whatever, one login, again, we've got something for you. Now, what about the legacy systems, our servers that we might have and things like that? Well, for that, we have an installed collector that you can use, that you can install the collector on your various machines. You can install it on every machine that you want to extract logs and metrics from. Or you can also install it on a consolidated machine, and then you can have these machines forward their logs to the consolidated machine. Now, these installed collectors, they will encrypt, they will compress, they will send to the Sumo Logic cloud so that you can get a hold of your information. So these collectors compress, encrypt, and send to the Sumo Logic environment. Now, we talk about how to set up a collector and install a collector and all that stuff in our administration class. So this is not a class that, in this class, we're going to see what our collectors are, where they are, things like that. But we're not going to talk about installing a collector. We'll save that for the administration class where it's a little bit more involved. Besides installing collectors and sources, and by the way, the sources, let me go back to that. The sources are my actual source of my data, right? So for example, if I want my S3 logs from AWS, if I want my network monitor from Azure, if I want my Apache logs from a server, whatever, that's a source. So your collectors might have underneath them multiple sources. So for example, I've got an AWS environment, I may want my S3 bucket, I may want my CloudTrail logs, my CloudWatch logs, you know, all kinds of different things, Kubernetes logs, whatever. So you might have multiple sources under a single collector. One other thing I do want to mention to you, we're also embracing in the big way open telemetry. So another type of collector that you can install is our new open telemetry collector. And so just wanted to mention that to you, and you'll see when we get around to the admin class that when you install a collector, you can install an installed collector or an open telemetry collector, or you can install a hosted collector as well. There's nothing to install for that hosted collector. Any questions so far? Now, when we set this information up, whoops, hang on, we get some in the chat box. Okay. Somebody asked, what's the lag between data collected moment and the search analyze readiness moment? That's a good question, and what it depends on. So Anatoly, let me answer that question just a little bit. I'm going to defer it because I want to show you where you can see that information. It's a great question, but I'm going to defer the question for just a little bit. It's not long, okay? Short answer, it's probably within seconds. So now, when we set up collectors and sources and things like that, we can reference them by their metadata tag. Metadata, of course, is the information about the data. That's what metadata means. Metadata is not a Sumo Logic proprietary term. It's an industry term, right? Everybody's got metadata. So when you set up a collector, I can reference it by saying underscore collector equals, and then the name of that collector, right? I want to look by host name. I can say underscore source host equals, and then the name of that host, the host name. Now, these first four are not bolded. This last one is, which means it must be important, and it is. We recommend that when you set up sources, that you provide a source category field. So you can go in and define a source category field for each of your sources that you set up. And we recommend you structure it in such a way that you go from the environment, labs, prod, dev, that sort of thing, to the major subassembly in that environment, to / the minor subassembly within that environment. So you could have prod / authentication / my Windows authentication logs or whatever you want. In this case, we have labs / Apache / access. So you can freely configure that with slashes to break it down so that it's structured in such a way that you understand what you're looking at. So we recommend you take advantage of that source category. All right, it is time, ladies and gentlemen, for you and I to log into Sumo Logic. Time for you to play with our training environment. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to bring up Google Chrome or Firefox. And for the URL, I'd like you to type in service.sumologic.com. That's service.sumologic.com. Then the next thing I'd like you to do is I'd like you to pick a 3-digit number, anywhere from 001 to 999. I don't care which number you want, but I'm going to ask that you type it and put it in the chat box. So tell me what number you want to use. For those of you who've always fantasized about being 007, here's your opportunity, okay? So you're going to log in as Training Plus Analyst with that 3-digit number at sumologic.com as your email. And then the password, the current password, and it changes every month, is security 22 exclamation mark. So let me copy this information. Let me put it in the chat box so you guys all have it. And just for fun, let me go out here to my environment. Let me switch environments to my training environment real quick. And let me log out. So when you go to service.sumologic.com, this is what you should see. It's asking you to log in. It's asking me to log in. Now, I am going to, just for fun here, take temporarily 603. You may ask, why is John taking 603? 603 is the area code for the state of New Hampshire. So the state that I live in, the area code is 603. So I'm going to grab 603, if you don't mind. And I'm just going to grab it real quick here, just to log in. So sumologic.com. I'm going to turn this into an email address. And then the password here. The password is, as I mentioned before, security 22 exclamation mark. And please don't forget the exclamation mark. That is our current password. And I'd like you to log in. Click the login button. And I can see that somebody left some tabs open here. Maybe you've got some tabs open on yours. Maybe you don't. We'll see. All right. What I'd like you to do is when you get logged in, I'd like you to go ahead and raise your hand. So in the participants area, there should be an option for you to raise your hand. That way I know that you're in and there's no problems. Now, if you're having problems, that's what I'm here for. Ulf's here for. Peter's here for. So if you're having problems, let us know in chat or let me know and we'll try to help you out. Okay. So it looks like we got 6 of you in. And so 6 out of 27 or 24. I expect a few more folks to get in. Jack, welcome to class, sir. I'll enable your microphone so you can ask questions.
Sorry about that. I'd hop on another call very quickly. Yeah, I missed the start of that login thing. Could you run through it again very quickly? Sorry.
Run through this again?
Yeah, just the logging into the.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and again, I'll put the login credentials here again in the chat box, but you're going to fire up a Google Chrome or Firefox browser. You're going to go to service.sumologic.com. And when you go to service.sumologic.com, it should give you a page that looks like this. But you're going to log in as Training Plus Analyst with a 3-digit number. I don't care what 3-digit number you use, but you're going to go and use a 3-digit number at sumologic.com. And then the password is capital SECURITY 22 exclamation mark. Security 22 exclamation mark. And then you should be able to log in. And when you log in, if you would raise your hand, I would appreciate it. So right now I've got 9 folks, 10 folks logged in, 11 folks logged in, great. So I'm just trying to get a sense, make sure everybody gets a chance to log in that wants to play. This is going to be a hands-on class. We do want you to come in here. By the way, you're not restricted to logging in just during class. Tomorrow you can log in if you want to and play. Next week you can log in and play. The only challenge is the password will change. And the password will change on the first Monday of the month. And therefore, if the password changes, I'll let you in on a little secret here. You can email me So I will provide you my contact information and I will tell you what the new password is. Now, I do not know what the password is until we change it. So there is my contact information in the chat box, but you can email me when we change the password, and when you find the password doesn't work, it's usually the first Monday of the month, and I will tell you what the new password is. Okay. So you can come in here and play, and I encourage you to do so. Any problems logging in? Any questions so far? Okay. I am going to log in here. First of all, let me bring on them down, raise hands here. So it looks like we're all in good shape. I'm going to go ahead and log in with my credentials, and there's a reason why, and I'll explain in a minute. So here we are in Sumo Logic. And as I mentioned before, when I previously logged in, I had a whole bunch of tabs open here, right? Maybe you do, maybe you don't, maybe you find that annoying. I get it. It leaves it in the state that the last person was logged in. It leaves it in the previous state. If you got a bunch of tabs open here, of course, you close them one at a time, which is, of course, not the most efficient. Or if you click on any one of the tabs with the 3 vertical dots, that's the more action button. Click on those 3 vertical dots, you'll see you have an option to close all tabs. And you can close all tabs and then boom, done. Ready to roll. Now, over here is my navigation panel. And if your navigation panel is not open, mine's open, but I just closed it. So if your navigation panel is closed, you'll see the word Sumo Logic and you'll see this lovely little hamburger menu. If you click anywhere up here, it opens up the navigation panel. Now, in my navigation panel, starting over here on my far right, I have my library folder. My library folder is the folder where things are shared across your organization. So my library, your administrator will put things in your library to make it easy for you and for I to find things, searches, queries, log metric, dashboards, whatever we need. Over here next to that, to the left of that is your personal. It's got a little head on it. It's your personal. So when you save things, you can save them to your personal folder. Over here, I have a favorites folder. And the way I get things added to my favorites folder is real simple. If I go back to my personal folder, if I go back to my shared folder, my library folder, and if I see an object that I want to add to my favorites here by pulling down, you'll see it's got a hollow star. If I click on that star and fill it in, you've now added it to your favorites. It is now there. That's how you add things to your favorites. You don't want things in your favorites anymore? Click on the star, hollow it back out. It removes it from your favorites. So pretty simple stuff. Down here on the left of this is my recents. I can see things that I've recently opened. I can also see things that were recently shared with me. And we'll talk about sharing things in just a few minutes in one of the labs. But I can see recently opened by me, recently shared by me. Down below here is my main menu. And here in my main menu, I have an app catalog. I have various, depending on what permissions I have, depends on what I see. So for example, you may not even see an administration link because you may not have the rights yet. But here I can always get into help, and I encourage you to check out our help, our online documentation. Also, you can log a support ticket, you can get into community, you can do all kinds of things. By the way, there is a test question about support. Again, to get to contact support, you can go to help support. You can go to support.sumologic.com, that URL. You can email support@sumologic.com. So when you get to the test question, you probably want to select all of the above as the answer. That different ways you can connect and communicate with support. So I'll try to help you with that question. All right. What I want to do next is here on my home tab, where my house is, I've got home, learn, and certification. If I click on certification, if you click on certification, and if you click on get certified, now I may see more things here than you do. I see all 6 of these things or 5 of these things. You may not see some of these things, but if you log in on your company's Sumo Logic environment, With your credentials, you will see all 5 of these things. We turned off some of them for the training account. For example, we don't want the training plus analyst account to take the certification exam. We want you with your name to take the certification exam. That's why you don't see this get certified section. And I'll talk about it when we get around to the certification exam. This recorded live training, if I click on this recorded live training, and that's what I want you to do, I want you to click on this. Here, I can see all of the various courses that we offer. And if I click on the fundamental Cert Jam, and it says here, I got to register. So I'll click on registration free. Just click on that, and you can do that too.
Why don't we go ahead and get started here?
Here, I can see a recording of this class. So somebody asked earlier, can we get a hold of the slides? This is where you get the slides. You can download a PDF of the slides. You can download the lab guide if you want to. I'm going to show you another place to get the lab guide that I think is a little bit better. And then, of course, here is where we have a recording of this class. And we have that for all of our classes. So if you're having a hard time sleeping, maybe you've got a new baby, things like that, you can go in here and watch these things as you want to. Additionally, I will mention to you that we also have where it says become a Sumo Logic expert. We've got a bunch of self-paced courses that you and I can attend. Now, you may not see this because you're logged in with a training analyst account. But if you log in with your account, you'll be able to see it. And you can find any of our courses here, as well as our current password. Okay. But you can go in, for example, into general, and here is where our fundamental self-paced class is. Here's where our Cert Mastery self-paced class is. Our administration self, and you can take the self-paced classes if you want. Sorry, question. I think somebody raised their hand. Is there a question?
John, can you again show me how to go to this page, Sumo Logic training page?
I'm sorry?
Can you show that step again, how to go the
Yeah,
Sumo Logic
sure.
training page?
Yep. So here I am in Sumo Logic, a training environment, right?
Yeah.
I click
Yes.
on the house tab.
Yeah.
I click on the certification tab underneath the house tab. I
Yeah.
click on get certified.
Yeah.
That takes me to here. By the way, here is our learning management system, our LMS. And then for the slides and stuff, you go into recorded live training.
Yeah.
That answer your question, sir?
Yes, John. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, feel free to ask questions. That's fine. We encourage that. So good. Looks like we're good to go, right? By the way, this is a little out of date. Last week, I was at the RSA conference in the US down in San Francisco. That was great. Had a wonderful time. Saw a lot of good stuff. Anyway. So that's how to get a hold of the slides. Any questions about that?
Yeah, so can you go over the process to get the recent password again?
Sorry, to get what?
The recent password to log into Sumo Logic, the analyst account.
Right, the password to log into Sumo already. It's in the chat box, but I'll paste it in here again. The password is security22 exclamation mark, and that password changes every month. So if you go to service.sumologic.com, the URL, and then if you pick a 3-digit number and you log in as training plus analyst with that 3-digit number at sumologic.com, and then you put in the password, you will wind up into our training environment. Does that help, or do you need me to walk through it?
No, okay, that's not my question. If when the password changes and we need to obtain the new password.
Yep.
You demoed that just now.
I did demo that. 2 things. One, you can send me an email and I will tell you what the new password is. That's also in the chat box. But more importantly, you're right, I did demo it. So here, again, click on the home tab, click on certification, click on get certified. And by the way, I assume you're going to log into your company's Sumo Logic environment, right? And then here where it says become a Sumo Logic expert, that is where we provide that password. That's where
Okay,
that is.
so that assumes that we are logging with our company's
Correct,
email.
correct. You would log in your company's environment with your credentials, And then if you want to find out what the training password is, it's right here. Okay. So you can log into your company's environment with your credentials, but you can't log into our training environment with your credentials. You have to log in with a training analyst account and then password. So you can use your account to see what that password is and then come in here. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but in addition to that, so besides using like my company's account, is it possible to also have my own personal account to gain access?
I'm sorry, you want to create an account where?
Like maybe I created a personal with my personal email. If I created an account with my personal email.
Okay. Okay, on your system, on your company system, you don't have the data that we use in our labs. You may have some of it, but I doubt you have all of it. And so really to do the classes and to do the labs of our classes, you want to be in the training environment. And no, we're not going to set up an account for you personally in our training environment. So
No.
hopefully that makes sense. The logic of that makes sense to you.
No, I understand that.
Yep.
I understand that.
Okay, good. All right. Any other questions about this, folks? All right. Let me close up this learning management tab. Let me get back here. Again, here's my home tab. This time I'm going to click learn. And here we've got a bunch of our micro lessons, right? 5-10 minute short videos that you can watch on a specific thing, right? Data collection strategy, using your data in Sumo Logic. We got a whole bunch of them. They're out on YouTube. They were also in our learning management system. Now, down here, we have our hands-on labs for fundamentals, our hands-on lab for administration. We've got some cheat sheets and some other things I'm going to talk about tomorrow, just to save some time. But what I want to focus on right now is I want to focus on our hands-on lab fundamentals. So what we're going to do is we're going to do lab 1. And I'm going to tell you, lab 1's a little long. It's got a few steps to it. A lot of things are involved. But once we're done with lab 1, we're going to take a break. So if you would, again, if you're following along, make sure you click on the home tab up here, the learn tab there. And then if we would, click on lab 1, viewing data. And that takes us actually into our documentation where you and I can see all of our labs. So here in our documentation, here's the lab for tomorrow's class, Search Mastery. Here's the labs for our security analytics, cloud security monitoring analytics. Here's our cloud labs for metrics. Here's our labs for administration and so forth and so on. They're actually in our documentation. And I'm going to talk more about the documentation tomorrow. So I will get in there and I'll talk about it at nauseam detail. So here we are, hands-on labs fundamentals, lab 1, viewing our data. So first thing they want you to do is they want you to log in. You've already logged in. Done. Check. The second thing they want to do is, and I think this is something you want to do, when you get to your company's environment, you probably want to know what data is available. There's 2 ways to do that. One, you can go into manage data collection and see the collectors and the sources. 2, you can also write a query. So we're going to do those 2 things. So we're going to go back here to Sumo Logic, back to our Sumo Logic training environment. We're going to open up our navigation panel if it's closed. So click on the hamburger menu if you need to. Here in my main menu, I want to find the Manage Data button. And under the Manage Data button, there is a collection button. And in that collection button, there is a collection tab, which comes up by default. So here I can, you can, we can see what kind of data that we're looking at. These triangles are our collectors. The stuff underneath the triangles are our sources within the collectors. For example, gee, am I grabbing Okta data? I can do a search for Okta. Doesn't make any difference, uppercase, lowercase, it's case insensitive. And I can see anything that might have Okta in it. I want to look for Azure. I can do a search for Azure. And I can see maybe what Azure labs and stuff I might have. So you can very easily search for things that you're looking for and see those various collectors. Now, again, you can do this on a training environment, but more importantly, you can do this on your company environment. So you get an idea of what kind of data you're dealing with. Any questions about that? If I go back to my lab one, by the way, I'm going to pin this. I'm running Google Chrome, so I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to pin it. It just makes it easy. It sticks it over here and it lets me switch back and forth fairly easily. Okay. You can pin it too if you want. It's up to you. If I scroll down now, it says there's another way to do a query, another way to do a search. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a query we're going to create a log search. So they want us to click on this new blue button and they want us to select log search. So back to Sumo Logic. Here's my new blue button. Click on it, click log search. And this brings up my search interface, my log search interface, where I can write a query, you can write a query, we can write a query, and we can see the various results and stuff that we want back. Now, if I scroll down here in my directions a little bit more, I see that it gives me a query. Now, you can, I can, we can swipe over this query, and I can right click, I can copy it. Then I can go over here to my editor and I can paste it in. Okay, you can paste this query in. Now, rather than paste that in, I'm going to start here. And by the way, as far as a best practice, this is not a best practice. So when I type in a star here by itself, I'm basically saying, give me everything. For us, a star is a wild card. And so when I run this star on my training environment, you'll see over the last 15 minutes, that's a time range here, the last 15 minutes, I can see I've got 918,888 messages. Okay, it's a lot of messages. You may have more in your company's environment. So a lot of messages there that we can do. So we normally recommend that you go ahead and specify, source category equals a specific source category or whatever. And you'll see that more in tomorrow's class. We're going to focus on some best practices and some more discipline type stuff. Now, when I want to add another command to this, I can type in a pipe. A pipe means, oh, one more thing, one more command, one more thing I want to do. And I'm going to run an operator called count by, and I want to type in here underscore source category. You may notice that what I'm doing is I am typing in what the query was that we copied. And I think I misspelled something, so let me just fix that. There we go. So if I run this by clicking the blue button here or hitting the enter key on my keyboard, now I still see my original 9,000 whatever messages, but now I have this aggregates tab. And on this aggregates tab, and the reason I've got an aggregates tab is because I told it to count. You tell it to count or sum or min or max, you're going to get an aggregates tab. And so now here I can see how many of these messages are coming from my various sources. So this makes it fairly easy for me to see where my data is coming from. Now I'm going to add an extra message on here. I'm going to add an extra thing. I'm going to type in a pipe. Again, I want to add another command. And I can say I want to sort by or order by. So sort by or order by. And I want to order by underscore count. Now, underscore count, you're like, wait, this is underscore count. This is count. I don't understand. This count right here on my left here is an operator. It's going to count things, right? Think of a teacher in the classroom counting students. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The results of that count are stored in a variable called underscore count, unless I specify. So underscore count is the default it's going to store it as. And when I tell it to order by, and I don't specify an order, either ascending or descending, by default, it goes descending. So now I can see out of my 913,000 messages, 97,000 are from this source, 87,000 are from this source, or 57,000, sorry. Can't read real well this morning. So I can see where these things are coming from. Now, I'm sure you've probably figured out by now, I could type in another pipe, and I could type another command, and I could type another pipe, another command, and I'd have the ugliest run-on sentence of the world. It could go all the way out here to the right. And while the system has no problem processing it, we humans have a hard time reading it, because we could have it go all the way out here to the right onto infinity. So we recommend for us humans that we want to insert these pipes on a new line. And the way you do a new line is you put your cursor in front of the pipe. And if you're on a Mac keyboard, you do a Shift Enter. If you're on a Windows keyboard, I believe it's an Alt Enter. And that will then do a character term line feed. And now you can have these commands on their own separate lines. And that improves readability for you and for me. Okay. And so still get the same results. Nothing's changed. By the way, if I want to comment out a line, I can go to a specific line if I want to. And I can type in, excuse me, front of that line. And I can type in 2 forward slashes. That comments out that line. So if you wanted to ignore a line while you're troubleshooting and testing, you can very easily do that. Now, oops, I didn't mean to do that. I'm going to answer the question that was asked earlier. So I'm going to deviate a little bit here from the directions, just bear with me. But the question was asked earlier, is there a way I can see the response time of how my log messages and stuff are coming in? So great question. So let me answer that question this way. I've commented out these 2 lines. I am looking at my original messages. And you'll notice here, I've got a date timestamp here, okay? Now, when we look at time, we can, again, specify how often, how long we want to go back. So right now I'm looking at only 15 minutes worth of logs. I could go back 60 minutes, 3 hours, whatever. And tomorrow I'll show you how you can actually pick a value that's not on this pick list. And you can also pick a date range if you want to. And again, I'll talk more about this tomorrow. But what we can do is on this gear, I can click on this gear and I can say I want to use receipt time. So right now with this situation, with the receipt time not being turned on, I'm using the timestamp in my logs. If I click to say use receipt time and I run this, now what I'm seeing is I am seeing the time that we at Sumo Logic have received this, and we're seeing the timestamp of the log. So here I can see the time here. I can compare it against the time here, and therefore I can see what my latency is, how long it's taking me to ingest. And by the way, this 15 minutes now means because I'm using receipt time, I'm looking at my last 15 minutes based on the time that we at Sumo received it, not necessarily based on the timestamp of your logs. So that's an easy way for you to find the latency time there.
And John, I think there is also a subtleness in that question that can be answered here. So
Okay.
the user might also be wondering how soon, after the logs are or actually ingested into Sumo Logic, how soon he can actually query those logs through query window, right? So
Right.
It's after the data hits our endpoint. So typically that delay should not exceed a minute. It varies. It's not quite deterministic process, but you should not see the longer delay than up to a minute. I would say that's my experience from using Sumo Logic over the years. However, if you do need to see like a streaming flow of logs coming into Sumo Logic, and that the minute comes from the fact that obviously Sumo Logic has to go through a lot of processing, indexing, parsing, analyzing. So all of those processes take time. If you want to see a raw streaming raw stream of logs coming into Sumo Logic, we also support what we call a live tail. And maybe, John, it's worthwhile to take a quick look at that live tail and talk about it for a minute, because
We can do that,
this
yep.
just gives you the raw view of what's coming in. The delay here is just a couple seconds at the moment.
Yep. So let me show you live tail again. I can go up here to new, and I can click on live tail. And then here in live tail, I can basically type in whatever query I want. So let me just put in that little star back here again. Okay, it's unlike wildcards, which makes sense, right? We don't want to see everything coming in. So let me type in here source category. Equals, and then I want to say I want to grab my information on my labs environment, my Apache.
Sorry, there's a spelling
Thank
mistake on source.
Apache access logs, and so I can run that. I'm sorry,
I
Source.
think that's source.
I misspelled source. Yeah, thank you. SAURCE. Let's try that. There we go. Good. And so as Peter pointed out, that when I run this, I will see logs as they're being ingested. And so I can see the information is happening here. I can go to this highlight button, and maybe I want to highlight some of the contents in here. Maybe I want to highlight any 304s. Maybe I want to highlight any HTTP, any text HTTP. And so I can see where that stuff is in my ingestion. Now, the problem is only 20 people or 10 people can run concurrently live tail on a system. There's a governor on it. The only people who typically run live tail are people who set up collectors. They want to make sure the data is coming in. So hopefully that answers your question ad nauseum, and we are good to go. I'm going to go ahead and close out a live tail. And let's get back to the lab. Are we
John,
good?
just a quick question as well.
Yes, sir.
With regards to receipt time, that's U to C time, isn't it? Which
I'm
would
sorry, it's
explain
UTC time?
Yeah, the
Yes.
receive time is U to C, so that would explain the 5-hour difference in this screen here, right?
Correct. So what happens is that you've got, different time zones that you can specify. And just because you guys are all in Europe, you're all probably in different time zones. Let's take a moment and talk about that. If I open up my navigation panel, and when we set up collectors, we set up sources, we can specify what time zone we want. So as we grab the data, we can set that up. Additionally, for a user can go into here like I'm doing with my account, can go into preferences, and here I can specify what time zone I want to use and what my default date format is. So that's something else that you can do from a user perspective. But normally when we set up our sources, we define what timestamp we're going to use and what time zone. So we get everything in sync. Does that take care of that little problem?
Yes, yeah, just to kind of highlight that the difference there was effectively because of the time zones and UTC versus what the local time zone was. There was also a question in the chat if you can reference the receipt time, and you can. It's basically just using receipt time as a metadata tag for it.
Yep.
So yeah, thanks a lot.
Yep. For questions like that, I would suggest you go to our documentation. To get to our documentation, it is help.sumologic.com. Help.sumologic.com brings up our documentation. Then here under search, you can do something like receipt time, and using receipt time and all that fun stuff. So all kinds of good stuff here that you can play with, get a chance to understand. Again, metadata field using the receipt time as they pointed out. So yeah, no offenses. We peel back the onion on this tool for the next day or day and a half or 2 days, and even go farther. You're going to have lots of questions, and I would encourage you to feel free to investigate your questions. The other thing I would mention to you is, again, for the certification exam, it's open book, open notes, open documentation, open slides. So feel free to look something up if you need to. And you can also ask me or all for Peter questions and stuff. We'll gladly try to help you. So, all right, good stuff. Any other questions so far? Let me get back to this lab. So we basically created our little query here. We got our results. Life is good. Next logical thing we would expect from a new user is, how do I find a particular dashboard, right? So you can, I can, we can go into here. And again, maybe we want to find something in our shared library. So I'll click on my little library tab here. And there's a panel here that you can search by. And I can say I want to search for Apache, and I don't care if you type it in uppercase, lowercase, doesn't make any difference. So if I just type in the word Apache, you'll see I find everything with the word Apache in it. Well, maybe I probably want to be maybe more specific. So let me type in Apache Access. And so now I'm down to a couple of different folders. And the point is that I can, you can, we can search for things regardless of case. It's case insensitive. But if I go in here to this Apache Access folder, you want to find the one that has my name on it. Okay. And if you go into this folder, you can click on the dashboards and queries and stuff inside this folder. And if this application is set up right, and it is, you will be able to see the data that is being displayed and rendered for you. So this is how you can find and run a dashboard and query and all that good stuff. Yep. And then tell you, you're absolutely right. Yes, you can do something like that. Yep. Good question. All right. So that's how to find content and stuff in your Sumo Logic environment. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Now, the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to install an app. And I've got to warn you, we've recently made an update to our environment that is going to cause a little bit of problems. Things are not going to match here. For example, it says add to library. You're not going to see an add to library button. So this is one of those situations where I want you to follow along with me. And you will need this app installed for a future lab in this class today. Okay. So I would encourage you to follow along with me. So here we want to go to our Sumo Logic environment. Down in our main menu down here, we have an app catalog. When I click on this app catalog, I have a bunch of built-in applications. The best query that you can write is the one you don't have to write, right? So for example, I can scroll down here. I'm looking at all my applications. You can see we have a few of them, but let me scroll to the bottom. I'm assuming some of you use Zoom. So you could click on Zoom here and you can see the dashboard information that it provides for you about your Zoom availability, your authentication, your administrative activities. There's some more over here, you know, how your users are using it, guest activities, meeting security, all kinds of built-in stuff for you. You didn't have to write any of these. All you have to do is install the app. Okay. If I go back here to my app catalog, what we want to do is we want to install an Apache app. So I can start typing in APA for Apache, and it starts to filter down for what I want to see. Now, we want to click this Apache with a feather. That's the application that you and I want to install. So I'm going to go ahead and click Apache with a feather. And notice it doesn't say add to library. It now says add integration. We are moving to an integration. We are trying to make it very easy for people to set things up. All right. So we're trying to, you know, if we have to install the collector, we have to configure, we do it all in one fell swoop. So that's why it's changed from add to library to add integration. Now I want you to click on add integration, and you're probably going to get a message that says you can't set up the data, right? You're going to get a message. I'm logged in, I have administrative rights, I can do that. But you're actually here. So if I click the next box, this is where you are. And that's fine. That's exactly where I want you. Okay. Now, as I said, we changed this interface a little bit. So in this interface, there's a few things I want to change and want to talk about. So I could specify the source category of where my Apache data is. Or I can also use a custom data filter. And for the lab, we want to use that custom data filter. So we want to select custom data filter. Now, one other thing, this interface just got released. It's a new interface. And I'm going to tell you, we made a mistake. We got a bug. Okay. If you start typing in here, it only takes one character. Okay. We got to widen that field out a little bit. That's on us, our fault. Okay. But I'm going to show you how to get around that for this lab. If we go into our directions, and if we swipe over this, where it says web server underscore system equals Apache, do not include the period there at the end. We swipe over this, we right click and we copy it. We can paste this information in, and then it goes in just fine. So that's what I want you to do. Swipe over it, copy it, paste it. Or you can type it in Notepad, swipe over it, copy it, paste it. We obviously expect this to get fixed here very quickly. People are aware of it. All right, then for my folder name, what do I want to call this that I'm installing? So I'm going to call mine Apache, and I want you, like me, to add your initials. So I'm going to call it Apache JWM. Now, I teach this class fairly often, so I'm going to put today's date in here as well. So 06/14. Let's go with 06/14. By default, it's going to put it in your personal directory under the test question. By default, it puts it in your personal directory. When I am ready and I've got this information filled out, I'm going to go ahead and click next. And it's going to go ahead and install the app. And it should tell me that I've got things done and I'm ready to go. So it says, yep, success, congratulations, you're done. It's now in your content library. You can now see it, which means that if you and I go into our personal library and we look for Apache with your initials, there it is, 06/14. If I click on it to open it up, and if I click on this Apache overview, I will now see it populated with data. I have installed this application and I have connected it to my data. That's what we did when we specified that custom data filter. Okay. All right. So that's one of the things we wanted you to do. We wanted you to be able to install an application. Now that you got this application, you might want to share it with others. So we're going to talk a little bit about sharing. By the way, in case you're wondering, we'll take a break here in about 5-6 minutes. So just bear with me. I'm going to get through this lab and we'll take a break. So here, again, in my application, here where my folder is, there's these 3 vertical dots next to it. And on these 3 vertical dots next to it, you see I've got lots of options. One of the options I don't have, which will be in the form of a test question, is I don't have the option to zip this. I can't compress it. I can't zip it. Okay. So when you see a test question, please get it right. But I can share it. So when I click on sharing or share, I can share this with a whole bunch of folks, right? So first thing I can do is I can share it with my entire organization. Boom. I can select my entire organization and I can share it with them. I can also, if I want to, maybe share it with specific roles. All of you have the training analyst role. So I'm going to share it with you. All of you have the training analyst role. So you can share with the entire organization, a role, or also a named user. Let's see if Ulf has an account in here. No, he doesn't. Let me send it with my boss here, Josh. So I'm going to look for Josh Brothon, who's my manager, and I'm going to add him as well. Now, the challenge, problem, issue, whatever is that they all have the same access right now when I set this up. They all have the ability to view. View means I can view it, I can see it, I can run it. Can't make any changes to it. If I want to give you the ability to make changes to it, you're going to give the edit right. So with edit, you can view, plus you can also make changes to it. The only thing is you can't change permissions. Who can see it? If you want to change permissions, that's the manage right. With manage, you have view, you have edit, and you can also change permissions. So initially, I'm going to give these 3 different bodies of people the view right. By the way, I can also notify them via email that I've given them this, but I don't want to really create an email storm. So I'm going to turn that off. So I'm going to go ahead and click save or share, excuse me. And that's then going to do that. Now I want to modify it. So I'm going to go back in, choose share again, and I can see who has access. And now I can go in here and say, I want my boss to have the manage right. I want you all to have the edit right. So I can change these permissions and I can save this update. So this is how you can share things. And again, you'll see a test question on which of the following rights do you have? You got view, edit, manage, and then they also have something in there as a test question of read. And the question is, which of the following is not a valid right when you're sharing objects? And the read is the correct answer. So just trying to help you out there. All right, scooting right along so we can share this up. And that takes care of lab number 1. And now it's time to take a break. Any questions before we take a break? And yes, I'm an experienced trainer. I know better. I know nobody's going to ask a question. So ladies and gentlemen, let's take a 10-minute break. When this timer gets down to 0, I'd like you to be back. And we'll see you back here in about 9 minutes and 55 seconds. Have a good break.
Ja, ja. Da will ich mir nicht in der Umkleide aufhalten.
Hey, folks. All right. Hopefully you all had a nice break and we are ready to resume class. We go ahead and close up this tab and let's get back to it. So when we last left off, we had done lab 1, which, like I said, we installed an app. We found things we were looking for, looked at where our data was coming from, all kinds of good stuff. In lab 2, 3, and 4, we're going to go ahead and start building out a query and start building out a dashboard and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. So here we are in lab 2, moved on. And they want us to go ahead and look at our Apache access information. So if you and I, first of all, I don't need this navigation panel. Let me close that up. Second of all, I got a bunch of tabs open here. I don't really need those tabs. So let me close them all up. Again, you can grab any tab you want, 3 vertical dots, choose close all tabs. Boom, takes care of that. Now I want to create a new log search. Now in this log search, I'm going to, and you notice as I start typing in, it starts immediately giving me selections. So I'm going to say source category equals, and then as I specify what I'm looking for here, the type ahead kind of filters things down. So as I start typing in Apache, it starts showing me what my choices are. And so I can look at my lab/Apache/access. Now I realize the lab also has the and get. Bear with me a second. I'll get to that. Let me run this real quick. So for the last 15 minutes, I have 7,280 results. Okay. Now, this is great. I'm seeing my Apache access logs, but what if I want to look for something specific in those logs? If I want to look for something specific in those logs, I can type in an and, although I don't have to. It's an optional thing. It's implied if I don't specify it. We'll talk about that tomorrow in more detail. But let's say I want to find only those messages that have a 403 in them. So I can type in here and 403. And now when I run this query for the last 15 minutes, helps if I spell 403 correctly. Now I see that I'm down to like 65 messages. So you can use this to kind of filter down what you want. And in our case, what they want me to do is look for the word get. Now, this first line is case insensitive. Notice if I typed in lowercase get, it found the uppercase gets here. So it doesn't matter what case you type it in, it's automatically going to find upper, lowercase, whatever. It's case insensitive. This first line is case insensitive. Okay. By the way, while we're here, let's talk about this a little bit. These are my messages. And then over here, this is called my field browser. My field browser. And we'll talk about the field browser probably a lot more tomorrow. But my field browser lets me see the fields that are automatically pre-parsed out and all that good stuff. We'll talk about that a little more tomorrow. So here in lab 1, they wanted me to go ahead and type this in. I did, again, it could have been uppercase get, lowercase get, doesn't make a difference. Okay. And then if I want to here, I can change my time. So I can do it for 15 minutes, 16 minutes, whatever. The time that you want is probably not on here. So then the question is, how do I specify my time that I want? Well, it's real simple. You want to go back in time, right? You want to go look at the previous whatever. So it's a minus sign. So you type in a minus sign. And if I want to go back 45 minutes, it's 4, 5, M for minutes, H for hours, D for days. So if you want to go back a time that's not specified here, you can write, type in a minus sign with whatever you're looking for. So I want to go back maybe 3 hours, 3H. I can do that. And if you put your cursor over that 3H, it will tell you the range that you're looking at. Okay. So I just want you to be aware of that's how you can specify time. Additionally, over here in the custom, you can have a date picker. So you can pick a date range. I want to go from this to this, and I can even specify the time that I want. You could type that in, by the way, as well. You could type in and say, I want, from this date at this time to this date at this time, if I want. So you can specify your date, you can specify your time. Additionally, one other little thing while I'm here, under reasons, you can see all the reasons that you've chosen. So rather than constantly reselecting something, you go back in here to reasons and grab what you want. and that's time. And I talked about the receipt time earlier, so that takes care of that. And we'll revisit that again tomorrow for those of you who want to talk about it. Talked about how I can see the number of messages here. Again, results is the number of messages. You're going to find that's a test question. So when you see the results, it's the number of messages I got back, number of messages I have. Now what we want to do is we want to parse. Now there's lots of ways that we can parse in our product. Some of it's automatic, some of it's manual, but we can parse our product. I'm going to show you one of the hardest ways to parse. I'm going to show you a parse anchor. So the way a parse anchor works is I want to anchor on a specific first character, and I want to anchor on the last character. So as I look at these messages, I don't care if it's the first message, the second message, the third message, whatever. I'm going to start right after this date timestamp on this bracket. I'm going to grab the bracket and I want to anchor on that. So I'm going to put my cursor over it, swipe over it. Now I'm going to continue to swipe over the word get. I'm going to continue to swipe over this URL. I'm going to continue to swipe over HTTP 1/1. I'm going to continue to swipe over these two sets of numbers, a 3-digit, a 4-digit number. Then I'm going to continue to swipe on this URL, including the double quotes. So I want to grab everything, including the double quotes, and that's as far as I'm going to go. Now, again, in case you missed it, I'm going to go to the second message and do it from there. So what I'm doing here is I'm on the second message. I'm going to grab the bracket, swipe over the word get, swipe over this URL, swipe over HTTP 1/1, these two sets of numbers, and then this URL, including the double quotes. And I'm going to let my cursor go. And you can see it's all highlighted. Now, with this highlighted, I'm going to right click, put my cursor on it and right click. And I have an option that says parse selected text. If you click on parse selected text, it pops up a panel here that shows me here's my start anchor, here's my end anchor, and what do I want to extract out of this string? Well, I want to extract out the word get. So I'm going to highlight the word get without any leading or trailing spaces. I just want the word get. And then when I highlight it, there's an option here to click to extract this value. I'm going to click to extract that value, and it replaces it with a star. Now I'm going to call the field get, the field method. I'm going to call it method. There's get and there's post. I'm also, after I type in the word method, I'm going to put in the comma because the fields down here are separated by commas. They're comma separated values. Then I'm going to go and grab this next bracket slash whatever master slash JS in my case, again, avoiding any trailing spaces or leading spaces. Well, it helps if I get the whole thing. There we go. And I'm going to extract that. And I'm going to call this URL, Uniform Resource Locator. That's basically my page. I'm going to leave and ignore the HTTP 1/1 stuff alone. I'm going to go over this 3-digit number. I'm going to swipe over it. Again, I'm going to extract it. And I'm going to call that my status code. Again, a comma. I'm going to grab this 4-digit number. I'm going to swipe over that. Again, avoiding any trailing or leading spaces. Helps if I grab all the characters. There we go. And I'm going to click on extracting that, and that's my size in bytes. I could type in size, I could type in bytes, I could type in whatever I want. Whatever I want to call that field. By the way, one thing I forgot to point out here with status code. Status code is 2 words, but I can't put a space in a field name. So I had to put an underscore or camel case it or whatever you want, but don't put it in a space. And then finally, inside my double quotes is this URL right here. So inside my double quotes, I'm just going to grab the URL. Again, it helps if I grab the whole thing. And I want to extract that value, and I'm going to call this my refer. Refer. Because, like, for example, when you go to Google and you do a search for something, right? And then you click on a link to take you to wherever you're trying to go, Google would become the refer. It referred you to that other site. And so in our logs, in our Apache Access logs, this is the structure of our logs, and we can take advantage of that. So I've extracted out these fields. I click submit. You'll notice it adds this nice, lovely line of code for me. And when I run this, it now has pulled out these fields. There's my method. Here's my refer. Here's my size. Here's my status code. Here's my URL. And if I go all the way over to the right, there's my original message. So it's extracted out these fields for me. Now, if for those of you who are following along, got lost in the manual dexterity exercise, and I can understand this is very tedious, you got to be careful and all stuff. I recommend in Lab 2, you scroll about 2/3 of the way down, and you'll see some code here. This code is right after, I think, step 9, excuse me. Swipe over that code, the entire code, and paste it in, and you should be good to go. Okay. Now, you might notice that the order I listed here is not necessarily the order I see them here. They're displayed down here alphabetically. And tomorrow, we're going to show you there's a fields command that you can use to change the order, but they are by default listed alphabetically. So I have now parsed out the fields that I want to be able to do something with. And so let me scroll down here a little bit. You can save this search if you want to. I don't care if you save it right now or not, but you can save it and give it a name if you want to. I'm not going to save mine. And that takes care of lab number 2. Now in lab number 3, we're going to enhance this. We want to basically create a visualization. So we need to add some things to make that happen. So as I move to lab number 3, and I want you to follow along, going to lab number 3, they want me to add a line here to say count by status code. They want me to add it after my parse statement. So I'm going to add a new line by doing a shift enter and alt enter. And what keyboard you're on, type in a pipe, count by, and again, you could, if you wanted to, just copy the code and paste it. But count by status code. I'm going to run this. Now, because I'm doing a count or a min or a max, it automatically creates this aggregates tab. And I now see out of my 7,127 messages, by the way, if you guys don't mind, let me zoom this in a little bit, make it a little easier for my old eyes. 7,127 messages, 5,416 are a status code of 200, 974 are a status code of 304, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to enhance this, because in my aggregates tab, you'll see I have the ability to create bar charts and column charts and line charts and stuff. By the way, in the aggregates tab, you have the ability, if you want to go in here some settings depending on what you're looking at. So for example, if I change this to a different type of chart, you'll see my settings change. Now, the point is, if I go to my messages tab also has a gear over here. And in my gear, you can see I can take my raw data and I can export this out. So I can take my raw data, my message data here, and export it out. My aggregates, I can also, if I want to, take my tabular data and I can export it out here as well. Again, some test questions. Now, what I want to do is I want to enhance this a bit more. So we've added this count statement here, doing good. They want us to also add a time slice operator. What a time slice operator is going to do is it's going to create and break things into buckets, okay? It's going to break things into buckets, and they want me to add above my count operator this time slice operator. So I can copy it if I want to, and above my count operator, I'm going to add a new line, and I'm going to paste this little line in here. Now, again, time slice just creates buckets. In my case, 1 minute worth of buckets. If I put 1H in here, it'd be 1 hour worth of buckets. It's going to aggregate everything by whatever these buckets are. And then I want to count by underscore time slice, comma, status code. And so what's going to do is it's going to show me down here, here's my time slices. And they're broken up into 1 minute buckets. They're not in any order. Okay. They're not in any order. And there's my status code, and here's my count. So now I'm breaking it down by status code and my time slices. Since I'm looking at time slices, so let me make this 60 minutes instead of 15 minutes, just to give myself some more data here. So now I'm looking at 60 minutes here. And then what I really want to do is I want to take this and I want to kind of turn it into a pivot table. So I want to see my time slices on my rows. I'd like to see my status codes across my columns. And I'd like to see my count in the middle. And for that, we're going to use the transpose command. So I'm going to go here after my count. I'm going to add a new line, type in my pipe, type in transpose. Now, when I use the transpose command, I have to specify what do I want on my row, what do I want on my column. So I'm going to type in the word row, and on my row, I want time slice, underscore time slice. My column, I want status code. So now when I run this, here's my time slices, and now they are in order. Some functions like transpose and others will automatically sort them. So this has now sorted them in order. Here's my status codes, and here is my data. So now I'm creating some sort of a visualization that looks halfway decent to me. In fact, if I turn this into, say, a line chart, I can see here's my time line, my time slices. Here's my values. This is pretty cool. In fact, in the book, they want you to use a column chart. That's fine. You can use a column chart. I'm going to use a line chart. I like line charts better. Okay.
John.
So that is there a question?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes,
Why are you putting an underscore with time slice when you're using it with the count and transpose, but you didn't with the initial function?
Good question. Thank you for asking. Remember earlier I mentioned that when you use count, right? Count is an operator that's going to count things. And then the results are stored in underscore count. Well, time slice is an operator that performs my time slices. But the result of that function are an underscore time slice. So that's why we use an underscore.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much for asking. I was hoping somebody's going to ask that question, so thank you. By the way, when we build these sort of visualizations, we have this legend right here, and I can use this legend to turn on or turn off certain values, okay? Which is kind of handy. It's built into the product, right? So when I add this to a dashboard, this legend's going to come over with it. Now, for those of you familiar with web pages and websites and things like that, we know that a 200 means everything worked, right? A status code of 200 means the page worked great. And so I really don't want to show them 200s. The other one I don't want to show them is 304s. Because a 304 means I received something from cache. It's not really an error. So what I'm building here is a visualization to show my team the errors that our customers are getting when they try to run our web pages, okay? So I want to filter out the 200 and the 304, which takes us to this next section here. So we've basically gone in here, we've run a transpose, right? We created our chart. They've got a column chart. I've got a line chart, same. But now we want to remove the 200 and the 304s because they're really not errors. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to write an expression here, okay? Now, rather than copy this expression and type it in, I'm going to go ahead and manually type it. So typically, a best practice for us is if you want to filter something out, filter it right after you get the field. So we got status code from this parse statement. Right after that is where I want to do a where clause, and I want to filter something out. So I'm going to type in where. I'm going to type in a set of parentheses, and I'm going to say status underscore code equals 200 or status underscore code equals 304. And for those of you who are paying close attention, you'll realize that when I run this, I'm only seeing the status code of 200 or 304. I'm not getting the desired results. I'm getting the exact opposite of what I really want. And that's true. That way I wrote it, that's correct. So what I need to do is I need to put an exclamation mark in front of this. The exclamation mark now reads, where not status code equals 203 or 200 or 304. So now when I run this, now I'm getting the results back that I'm looking for. And you'll see they're not even in the legend. There's not a 200 in here. There's not a 304. So nobody can select it on or off. See, there's some questions here. Let me take it out and see what we got. Okay, no, it's fine. Yep, no problem. Thanks all. And so somebody asked, Joy asked a question, can I change the color palette, right? Yeah, for greater distinction. You certainly can. So to answer your question, when we start selecting these things, if you go into your gear icon, you can change your properties and you can change your color palettes. Maybe if you want to, depending on the type of visualization, maybe you want to go in here and you want to change your legend, or you want to change your line based on specific values, conditional formatting type thing. Lots of stuff in here to go play with. So Joy, great question. I would encourage you to check out the properties icon, the gear icon right here. So thanks for asking. Joy, thank you. All right. So now we've pretty much got this the way we want it. And if I go to this lab, which I think it's lab 3 we're in, I've got my results. Life is good. Now we're ready to turn this into a dashboard. Okay. So let me go ahead and click on lab 4. And to turn it into a dashboard, and I need you to pay close attention with me, and I'll explain why in a second here. When we want to create a new dashboard, there's a button that says add to dashboard. I go in here, sure enough, there's the button, add to dashboard. When I click on this, it's going to ask me to give this a panel title. So what do I want to call this panel in my dashboard? I will call it something like Apache error codes. Then it asks me for my dashboard name. Do I want to send it to an existing dashboard, which is obviously these, or do I want to create a new dashboard, which is going to have to be a unique name? We want to add a new dashboard. We want to create a unique dashboard. So what I'm going to do here, if you don't mind, is I'm going to type in Apache status code. And I'm going to add my initials. I recommend you add your initials, makes it easy to find things. And I'm also going to put in today's date, 06/14/2022. And when I do that, it now says, oh, I don't have a dashboard with that name. Do you want to create a new dashboard? And that's exactly what I want to do. That's exactly what I want you to do. We're going to create a new dashboard. Now, here's where people make a lot of mistakes. And so I want you to pay close attention. So here's my panel title. Here's my dashboard name. Because we still have our test bank questions from the old dashboard user interface, our legacy dashboards, I want you to click on this switch so that it's over to the left and it's gray, it's not blue. Okay, so again, click on this switch so it's in the left. And so we're dealing with our legacy dashboards. And I'll point out the test questions. Later on, I will also show you the new dashboards. Just give me a few minutes. And by default, it's going to put in our personal folder. But make sure you throw this switch. Then we get to click add. And Shazam, it's going to create for us a legacy dashboard. Okay, a legacy dashboard here. And here it is. There's my dashboard name. Here's my panel name. Okay. By the way, the first thing I noticed for those of us in the over 40 category is this is too small. So I can grab it by the corner here and I can make it a bit bigger. Okay. Stretch it out and how I can read it. Again, you'll find when I'm done editing, I can interact with this and change these values and filter things out. And life is good. Now, in this legacy dashboard, if I go to the more action button over here and I want to add a panel, The only panel I can add in the legacy dashboard is either a title panel or a text and title panel, which means that if I want to add another visualization in here, I have to go out and create a log query and then add that log or metric query to this dashboard. Test question. So if you want to add another dashboard panel to this, you got to go either create the log query or the metric query and add that to the dashboard. That's how you do it in the legacy dashboards. Okay. Now I'm going to use this text and title panel, and I'm going to type in something like Apache status code errors. And for the text, these are the errors our customers are seeing, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And I'm going to click submit. And so what I've got here is a small little box here, a big box there. I'm going to kind of even it up a little bit, if you don't mind, by dragging it by the corner so that they all look about the same size. And then I want to change the order of things, right? I want this over on the left. So I could drag it, drop it over here on the left. I scroll down, I find my little visualization, drag that up here by the right. Pretty simple stuff. So right now, like I said, I'm editing, changing this, having a good time. By the way, for those of you who have iPads, tablets, things like that, under the 3 vertical dots, you can toggle the theme and use a dark background. So I ask you, which is better, 1 or 2? Again, 1 or 2. All right. Whichever you prefer, it's entirely up to you. Okay. It's always good to have a backup career, so maybe I can be an optometrist or something when I grow up. But whichever you like. Now, when I am done editing and I want to let people play with this, I can click on Done Editing. Okay. And then there's another test question. It says, if I want to go back into editing mode, you want to click on this pencil. So there's your test question, the other test question here. You want to click on this pencil to go back into editing mode if you want to. Now, one other thing I want to make you aware of. The time range on this is 60 minutes. Okay. So what's going to happen is after 60 minutes, this thing will refresh. And people say, well, that's nice, John, but I really want it to refresh, every minute or, more often than 60 minutes. Okay. For that, in the legacy dashboards, we have this live mode switch. And if you throw that switch, now as new data comes in, the old data will get pushed out. So it becomes a running 60 minutes. So that's live mode. I just wanted to point it out to you. Okay. So there we have it. That's basically, we've added our dashboard. By the way, as I mentioned before, if I'm not in editing mode here, I can filter, I can select, I can have a good old time. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is lab number 4. All done. In lab number 5, we're going to go back and visit an old dashboard friend of ours, the Apache application that we installed, and we're going to modify one of the dashboards in there. So before I go to lab 5, are there any questions so far? Just so you know, we should be done here in about 5-10 minutes and to get you to the exams. So just bear with me. All right. So in lab 5, what they want us to do is they want us to go back and find our friend, the Apache dashboard. So you want to go into your personal folder. Remember, earlier we installed that app, that Apache app. You hopefully have an Apache with your initials. And we want to find the Apache overview dashboard. Now, this is in our new dashboard interface. And you'll notice in our new dashboard interface, I can add a panel right here if I want to. Okay. Additionally, I can also, instead of live mode, we have this automatic refresh where we can have it refresh the dashboards. And if you act right now, you'll also find we can export this out as JSON, as a PDF, as a PNG file. Okay. And of course, we can link our dashboards together, although you can link the legacy dashboards together if you want to. Okay. Now, what I want to do is focus on the lab. So here in the lab, if I scroll down a little bit, you see I've got this wonderful picture of the Earth and the world and stuff. And what I want to do is I want to modify this query. I want to modify this query so that I'm only seeing data for the United States. Okay. So what happens where it says visitor location over here, here's my panel. And what I want to do is I want to edit my panel. Now, again, the nice thing about these new dashboards is I can click on the more action button here, the 3 dots, and I can edit it right here in this tool. So I'm going to click edit. And now I can see here's my map. Here's my query. I can modify it right here and fix things. Now, for those of you, again, I'm not going to get into this query. I'm going to talk more about this lookup stuff tomorrow and how we generate these map visualizations. But basically what we do is we have a partnership with a company called Newstar. We pass in an IP address and we go to this Newstar lookup that we've got. And it gives us things like latitude, longitude, country code, country name, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, what I want to do is right after this line of code, I want to insert a new line, type in a pipe, and I'm going to add a where clause. Where country underscore name equals double quote, in between my double quotes, I'm going to type in the word United States in proper context, capital U, capital S. So what I'm doing now is I'm adding a filter that's going to filter this for the United States. Oops, excuse me. And so now when I run this, now the only place I see data is in the United States. And if I want to here, I can move my map. I can kind of zoom in, play around. So basically I added this filter. Now, you may ask, why did I put it right after? Why did I put it here? Why didn't I put it up here? Because right here is where I got country name. Remember, our best practice is we want to filter right after we get that field. So here's where I got that field. That's why I'm going to filter that field. So now I can say update my dashboard, and now it's going to send it back to my dashboard. There it is. And all I have to do here is just open it up a little bit, make it look pretty, move it around, and we are off to the races, ready to go. And that's how you and I can update a dashboard. And that takes care of lab number 5. That's it. Now tomorrow, like I said, we'll talk more about creating these maps and all kinds of cool stuff. That'll be in the Search Mastery class. Lab number 6, I have to confess, lab number 6 does not do creating an alert justice. We'll have a little conversation today about creating an alert. We'll have a little conversation tomorrow about creating an alert, creating a better alert, a more meaningful alert. And then we'll also show you tomorrow another way of creating monitors and alerts and all that good stuff. But for the purposes of this and purposes of the test, what I want to do is I want to create an alert. And the way you create alerts is real simple. You go into your log search. So if I open this query up in the log search, or if I click on the search tab, whatever, you'll see that in here, here's my query. And over here is my save as button. Save as here, or my save as button there. But if I click on save as, down here in the corner, I can schedule this search. This is more of how do I schedule a search to run and update regularly. I can do it that way. So how often do I want this to run? I believe I'm running this every 60 minutes. So let's run this every 60 minutes, hourly. And again, there's some timestamps and what time zone do I want to run it in and stuff like that. Now, as far as an alert or sending this to somebody, I can send it via email. I can invoke a script action. So let's say I've got a report talking about my port activity. Well, if I'm having somebody trying to attack a port, I can run a script action to maybe lock that port down. I can generate a Cloud SIM enterprise signal an insight that there's a problem and stuff. I can make a ServiceNow connection. I can make a webhook. Webhooks allow us to connect other systems like Slack or Teams or whatever. So you can run and do a webhook if you want to. I can create a lookup table that I can then reference, or I can save it as an index in my database. So these are the various actions that you can take. And if I choose email, then if I scroll down here, I can specify who do I want this email to go to. I want it to go to me, right? You can have it go to you, your email address, whatever. You'll notice in the email subject, I have flat text I can use, the word search results, but I also have variables here that I can use. And you can see over to the right, the additional variables that you can add if you want to. Now, in the email, I can include my search query, I can include my result set, I can include my histogram, and I can include the results as a CSV file if I want to. Now, test question in here, it's going to ask you, there's going to be 4 choices. Which of the following can be included in your email? And the correct answer is going to be result set, just so you know. The other 3 are not listed here. So that's that. So I can schedule this to run and send me these results every 60 minutes. I click save. Oops, says static time is not allowed. Hang on a second. There we go. All right. So I have now, okay, so it's now in there. It wants a different name. Hang on a second. Location, JWM. Let's put a crazy number in there. Again, 60 minutes. Again, 60 minutes. Email. Send it to me. And I'll turn everything on. Okay. All right. Now, if you turn this on, and after a while of getting annoyed with these emails, you can go back in here very easily and turn it off, right? So we can go into here if we want to, and we can go into save as and schedule a search and change it back to never. Or also you can go into where this has been saved. So just bear with me a second when I type in visitor. Helps if you spell correctly. Visitor locations, here it is. You can also go into here and click save as, and you can turn off the schedule here. So all that fun stuff. So that's how you turn it off. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is lab number 6. Lab number 7 is a self-paced lab that you can drive through on your own. Basically, it shows you how you can get information on our documentation, how you can visit our Learn page to see what training stuff's available, customer, contacting customer support. By the way, we also have a Slack channel that if you want to, you're certainly welcome to join, right? So we have a Slack channel that you can join. I would encourage you to do so if you want. Slack.sumologic.com. Feel free to join us and reach out and communicate, okay? That takes care of the labs, folks. What questions have you? Before I turn you loose on how to get into the exam. What questions do you have about the course? All right, let's prepare for the exam. For the exam, in our training environment, I need you to log out, okay? I need you to log out. Why? Because I don't need training analyst, whatever number at Sumo Logic to take the exam. I need you with your name to take and pass the exam and get credit for it. So I want you to log out of our Sumo Logic training environment. And then I want you to go to your company's Sumo Logic environment, and I want you to log in. So I want you to go to your company's Sumo Logic environment, and I want you to log into your company's Sumo Logic environment, such that when you log in and you go down here to the lower left-hand corner of your navigation panel, you'll see your name, right? So I want to make sure you're logged into your company's environment. So you're logged in by your name. And then to get to the certification exam, you're going to click on the home, click on certification, click on get certified. Now, you might get a little message that says we need to verify your email, in which case if you click on that button that says verify, in a minute or two, you should get an email from us. In the body of that email is a button that says, verify or whatever. Click on that button, and then this problem is all resolved. Okay. But we need to, we want your permissions to be able to move from one environment to another, is really what that's all about. Now, having done that myself some time ago, I am now into our learning management system. So once again, I went here, 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 and that took me to here. The section we want is to get certified. If I click on get certified, one thing I want to mention to you, all the self-paced courses you take, all the exams that you take up here in the upper right-hand corner, if you go into your My Profile, again, you might see, you won't see a picture up here. I put my picture up here. You can add your picture if you want. But you'll see any exams that you pass. Once you pass them, you'll be able to click on your certificate. You'll be able to add it to your LinkedIn profile under your certification section, stuff like that. Okay. Just wanted to mention that to you because people ask all the time, hey, once I pass, where do I get my certification? Here's where you get it. You get it in your My Profile. Now, for us to take the exam and pass it, we're going to click on this fundamentals exam. And we're going to register, and the registration is pretty instantaneous. Now, I want you to watch for a second. Don't follow along with me, just watch for a second. So when I say before I start, I click on this, it says, okay, your exam consists of 30 questions. You got 60 minutes to complete it, and you will. And I'll be here while you're taking the exam, okay? So I will be here in case you get questions, you get problems, things along those lines. If you get stuck on a question, feel free to ask me. Ask Ulf, ask Peter, ask any of us. We'll gladly help you. Passing score is 75. Open book, open note, open slide, open instructor exam. So help us help you. When I click next, it's going to take me to the exam. That's why I want you to watch and not follow along. So here I've got my 60-minute timer. As I start scrolling down and start seeing questions, my timer starts. The pressure. And so here, for example, as a question, parsing allows you to provide structure to your log statements by extracting fields that you can analyze. Which of the following is a false statement, right? Okay. One thing I forgot to point out, and this is on me, so thank you very much. We use a parse anchor, but in order to use a parse anchor, your messages have to be consistently formatted. So this says I can use a parse anchor with log messages with unpredictable patterns. That is the false statement right there. So that's the one I want. These others are absolutely correct. Select the following query that will filter all incoming status codes so that you only see only 404 codes, right? So I want to see only 404. So I think it's this one right there, right? That makes sense. And so which of the following allows us to do a keyword search on this IP address across your production logs? Assume the following source categories. So I want to go across my production Apache logs. So what I want to do is I want to see both of these logs, and I can use a wildcard for that. So I can say source categories prod/Apache/star, and I want to look for the word, this is this IP address. So that looks to be the correct answer. Now, I'm not going to go through all these questions, folks, but I'm going to scroll to the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and click next. And the point is, I only answered 3 questions. So I can see I failed, shame on me, but I can see which questions I got right, which questions I got wrong, which is why I'm trying to show you this. The other thing I want to show you, and it's very, 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 very important, is in order for this to get written into your profile when you're done, when you pass the exam, please do not forget to click the submit button. When you click the submit button, it will write it to your profile, and therefore you'll be able to see your certification, and you can add it to your LinkedIn profile and all that stuff. If you don't click the submit button, it didn't happen. So please, 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 please click that submit button. Okay, because I have a feeling you're going to pass and you're going to do well. Okay, if you don't pass, by the way, you can take it again immediately. You can take it again next week. You can take it again tomorrow. There's no action for me that you need to do. So, and if you don't want to take it right now, you don't have to. It's entirely up to you. So what questions have you before I turn off the recording and I let you take your exam? By the way, there is one other slide I do want to show you. I apologize, but this is also in the exam, so I wanted to share it with you. When you're building a query, this is typically the order that you're going to go in. You're going to grab the metadata tag that you want in keywords first. That's the first thing you're going to do. Then you parse, then you filter, then you aggregate, then you finally format. So this is the order that you go in, and you might see this again in the form of a test question. So I want to help you out there. So what questions have you before I stop my sharing and let you guys take the exam, excuse me. Well, like I said, I'm going to turn my camera back on. I want to thank you all for attending. I hope to see you in tomorrow's session as well. We get into more in depth about writing queries and commands and all that good stuff. One other test question I just thought of. There is a command line interface, a CLI, for that live tail. I think it's in tomorrow's exam, but it's not, maybe in today's exam. So if you see it, you'll find that the answers, it says, which of the following is not a valid command line interface to run live tail? All the commands will start with a period / the word live tail. One of the commands does not have that. That is the correct answer or the incorrect command to run live tail. Okay. And again, if you get it, feel free to ask me and I'll help you out. Otherwise, folks, I want to thank you all very much for joining us. And like I said, I'm going to stop my sharing. I am going to stop my recording and